What's happening, everybody? Trey here, joined as always by my dad Sean, and today we have a reaction to Bob Dylan, one of our favorites here at the channel.
Of course.
And his 90s acclaimed work, Time Out of Mind. This comes courtesy of a suggestion from our patron Sean. And Sean has brought us a bunch of
He has, man.
great Dylan records.
Always appreciate it, Sean, and a fantastic name.
Oh, absolutely. So this one was fun to dive into due to just its acclaim, and we've done the early folk Dylan. We've of course done the rock trilogy. We did Blood on the Tracks and Desire from the '70s. We did Oh Mercy. We even did a gospel record.
We did, man.
So
we got a little feel for.
Yeah. So this is kind of we're continuing on through the Dylan journey. So before we get though into the quick facts and the track-by-track review, if you haven't already, be sure to hit that big red subscribe button. We upload every single day.
Yeah.
And if you like this vid, be sure to give it a thumbs up. That helps us out in the old YouTube algorithm. And you can check out all of our social media links down below. Got a great Facebook group, Instagram, and we also have a Patreon page if you'd like to support us for as little as $1 a month.
Every bit helps. We really appreciate our patrons, Trey. As we jump into this 30th studio album for Mr. Zimmerman.
And we sit here in 2020. He's a week away from doing record number 39. So
He is. It's insane, man. This was his first double album. I mean, you know, it's released in a different way now, but if it was on vinyl, it was his first double album since 1970. His first new material in 7 years. This was critically acclaimed, very critically acclaimed. Commercially successful for Bob. I say it in a lot of the reviews we do on Bob, but he never sold a lot of albums, which is insane to me, but that's a whole nother conversation that I won't get into. It's number 410 on the Rolling Stones top 500 albums of all time. 98 Grammy Awards. He won Album of the Year, Best Contemporary Folk Album, and for Cold Iron Bound, Best Male Rock Performance. 15 songs were recorded, 11 were chosen. Songs that didn't make it were Mississippi, Dreamin' of You, Red River Shore, and Marching to the City. It's always a big thing every Dylan album we do. The things that didn't make it, but then leak out later, either through the bootleg series or just period. And everybody says those should have been included on here. So those are the four that didn't make it. He got divorced from Carolyn Dennis in 1992. He hadn't had any new material in 7 years. So this album definitely has like a melancholy, all driven, almost all love songs, a different Bob than we've seen.
Yeah, lots of heartbreak.
Definitely.
Really just permeates throughout this entire record. There's one just kind of classic love song, which we'll get to, and you know, it's been covered by many people. But yeah, Bob here, this kind of reminded me in a sense a little bit of Blood on the Tracks, just thematically.
Yeah.
But just with a guy with a couple more decades of heartbreak under his belt.
Yeah, those add up after a while. And he did a few things differently. He demoed some of the songs in the studio, something he rarely did. And members of Dylan's touring band were involved in these sessions. New personnel hired for the album, including slide guitarist Cindy Cashdollar, drummer Brian Blade. He also brought in Jim Keltner, famous Jim Keltner, who was his drummer from 79 to 81. He used these loose sessions to then go back, rewrite them, and then they went to Miami and lay down the actual album. He brings in Daniel Lanois, worked with him on Oh Mercy. Daniel's
got to review that up, by the way.
Got to review that up. We've done that one. And we've also done, you know, Daniel did 2 albums with U2 to this point. He had done Octone Baby and the Joshua Tree. Did a very acclaimed album with country artist Emmylou Harris. So he was well known. It lends to the sound of this very much. Daniel's all over this thing. It's got this atmospheric just vibe with it, which a lot of people loved. Some of the critics didn't, and Trey, I don't consider myself a critic, but I'll get into that, and I'll just give you a sneak peek. I did not.
You weren't a fan of the
No,
Lanois.
but you're going to hear that enough over the next several minutes of this review.
Yeah, and Lanois noted that you know, producing for Dylan is a tough thing because he's, quote, an eccentric man. He would note that they would go outside the studio without the band and just sit on you know, the fender of a truck and just kind of talk. Lanois would know, man, I like what you did on Sad-Eyed Lady of the Lowlands. Can we do something for that? Bob would be like, you think that worked, Daniel? And then, you know, they just kind of spit ideas off each other. And Daniel said that was kind of a cool thing. Right?
Yeah, he said people wouldn't believe. You know, you imagine driving by and looking over in the parking lot, there's Dylan sitting there.
And Dylan wanted the sound to be influenced by some of the old school blues artists of the day, so he suggested that Daniel listen to those records. And this definitely has a a bluesy sound.
One of the
to
tracks too, we're going to get to early,
Yeah.
track 2 is very much like that. Dylan talked about in an interview, and I thought, he doesn't do a lot of interviews, and he's not real open when he does. So he did an interview with Guitar World at this time and said, I get really down in the studio because he said, I have a few bad takes, and then I think, how can I ever top what I did? Which I thought is, a real moment of transparency, and like, you'd have to go, yeah, you know what? That's true. How is this ever going to approach?
Yeah, because you can't just keep getting better. I mean, eventually you're going to peak, and then...
Yeah, and even though it's really good, people are going to be like, wow, I mean, this isn't Highway 61 Revisited or Blonde on Blonde or, some of those albums. So I thought that was interesting, the cover photo.
Yeah, the cover is, I mean, at this point, Bob's just probably like, I don't care what the cover is. It's just a little bit of a blurry photo that Daniel Lanois took of Bob. And
Don't you like, hey man, we need a cover. I don't know, dude, just shoot it. And
shoot it with me in the studio.
Let's go on. And then Bob got really sick after he recorded this album. Some people in revisionist history are like, he got sick and then wrote these songs because some of the songs you kind of feel like he may be thinking his life is winding down if you want to read it that way. But he got sick afterwards. He got something called histoplasmosis, which is basically a potentially serious condition caused by a fungal infection. It makes breathing very difficult. I might have butchered the pronunciation. I tried to practice it a lot before we shot this video, but breathing very difficult. Doesn't sound like very much fun. It's one of those weird things I've never heard of. Bob said it basically jacked him up for about 6 months, but he'd already laid this down, so it was after the fact. Trey, let's get into this album.
Well, speaking of sick, we start off with Lovesick, the opening.
Perfect segue.
tune.
I didn't even try to do that.
That's how great we are.
Yeah,
man.
something like that, right?
But no, this song introduces just kind of the Lanois sound here.
It does. I put even in my notes, Lanois is all over this song.
Got the pump organ in particular here.
Yeah, it's here almost in every song.
And one of the lines kind of notes, I'm sick of love, but I'm in the thick of it, something along those lines. And that just is a bit of a thematic statement for this record and just the heartbreak that Bob's going to delve into and the causes and effects of that on him. Little blues sensibilities, gritty voice by Bob. I know a lot of people really enjoyed this song. I wasn't, honestly, this would be bottom tier for me on this record.
Really? See, I think it's pretty good. One of the interesting things on Bob's voice, it may be gritty, but Daniel treated his voice. So it's really weird to hear Dylan with kind of a little treatment on his voice. It doesn't sound bad. It's just a little striking when you've listened to as much Dylan as we have. But it's not bad. That's going to take us into the traditional blues number on here. It even has it in the name, Dirt Road Blues. And some think this was improvised from a country blues riff, probably down the Dirt Road Blues by Charlie Patton, recorded in 1929, which goes with what you were saying in the beginning, that he wanted to do some of the traditional blues stuff. This definitely sounds like that. It sounds different than anything else on this album.
Yeah, for me, I again kind of thought this was a little bit forgettable. Just as you mentioned, just it was kind of there for me.
So for me. That's what I wrote down on my what I thought about it.
I mean, it reflected a man that has done and seen some stuff, but for some of the other tracks, it just got dwarfed in my opinion. So after 2 tracks, I was like, I don't know what I'm feeling. But then
it's about to get really good, isn't it? I don't know. Is it for me? It was.
Yeah, no. Then we get to track number 3, one of my favorites on the entire record.
Yeah.
I just thought it was a killer tune. Standing in the Doorway. This is a 7.5 minute long song, and just Bob waxing some of his best, most poetic love lines here.
The thing about this song, there's one other song I really felt this. I mean, it's really good. It's stripped back, so we got a little bit different. We got 3 songs with different instrumentation, but that's about to change. It's all about to sound very similar. But you really feel the emotion in Bob's voice. You don't usually, or for me, I don't usually feel that in Bob's song. Bob just delivers the lyrics because, he delivers the vocals because the lyrics are so good that he doesn't really have to get into the song. In this song, I really felt like the pain in his voice.
I like the line in particular, don't know if I saw you, if I would kiss you or kill you. You had Cindy Cash Dollar, talk about a great name, playing a killer slide guitar. And another line in there I enjoyed. Last night I danced with a stranger, but she just reminded me you were the one. A heart-wrenching song because, he was just left in that doorway crying, man.
Yeah, man, and he's with another woman and all. It just points out of like, oh man, and she's never going to be you. So
This did have a little, I spoke of it earlier, but I think this could have fit a little blood on the tracks type of era vibe, just with the subject matter and the way he delivered it.
Now we're going to go to Million Miles. Similar in just the heartache. Like, he wants to get closer to her, but she left him. They're a million miles apart. Bluesy, yet guess what's back? Guess what's back? That pump organ is back. So that's there. So what'd you think of this one?
And this was a bit of a mix between Lovesick and Dirt Road Blues, I thought, due to the bluesy nature mixed with that pump organ that you love so much. And the whirly piano. Lyrics reflect the idea of a broken down relationship where both were at fault, but especially honing in on the female. I think this was a solid tune that skated that line where the instrumental, didn't overpower it, but supplemented Bob's delivery pretty well.
And next up, a goal that everyone should have, trying to get
That's right.
to heaven.
This one was unique because it had a lot of throwbacks to, we had some Woody Guthrie in there and a lot of old school, like folk, from like the 20s and 30s songs.
We've got to get into heaven before they close the door. That's basically what he's telling you. I like the lyrics to it. Guess what I didn't like? The arrangement. Didn't like the arrangement. Good lyrics. How'd you feel about this song?
Yeah, I'm with you. I thought it was a solid tune yet again. Once we hit Standing in the Doorway, I thought the album really picked up for me personally, and it kept going with this track. Not a favorite or anything, but solid enough. And then takes us to the next tune.
Till I Fell in Love with You. 5 verses. Every one of them ends with I was all right till I fell in love with you.
This again was blues, I thought, through and through, and it reflects the idea that love is a tough pill to swallow.
Yeah.
Heartache is a tough thing to deal with, and I thought it was a solid number, and we really got to hear some more of those more wise Dylan musings on the topic of love.
Now we're up to the first single released, Not Dark Yet, about 6.5 minutes long. Time magazine actually named this one of Dylan's 10 best songs, which I don't know about that, but it's a fantastic song. It really is. It's the other song on here where I really feel Bob's emotion in this. A lot of people think this was inspired by John Keats, who's a guy that Dylan has said has inspired him greatly throughout his career. Yeah,
this is one where it could have been the last song Dylan ever released, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
Due to the just retrospective nature, we have Dylan here looking back, and he's very raw here. As you mentioned, the emotion is just bursting through his words and his vocal delivery, and just so many great lines in here, and reflects the fact it's not dark yet, but it's getting there. And
that's why a lot of people thought it was about death, and maybe it is.
Yeah, and you get the vibe where it's a guy who's gone through the joys and the heights of life, and also the valleys and the despair of it, and just musing on that. So I'm with you. This was one of my favorites on here.
It's fantastic.
And then we're gonna go now to a song that actually won a Grammy.
It did,
for best male rock vocal performance. Cold Iron's Bound, and this had a bit more of a rock arrangement here, but it kept that cynical bent that Not Dark Yet had, because he mentions that he found his love, but she hasn't really proved to be too true.
Yeah, we don't really know quite everything that the song and what the Cold Iron's Bound mean. It could mean handcuffs, it could mean other things. Who knows? Some people think it's inspired by a Rudyard Kipling poem from 1910. I don't know. For me, my notes are a little repetitive. Like the song, don't like the arrangement. That's going to bring us to the next song. A song I actually knew. Not his version, but Make You Feel My Love. First commercial released by Billy Joel under the title To Make You Feel My Love, before Dylan's version appeared later that same year, although Bob wrote it. It's been covered by numerous artists. Garth Brooks was where you probably know it from back in the day, to Adele.
Yeah, Adele's version was huge.
Huge. Kelly Clarkson. So hearing Bob's was a little strange, even though it was his song, because I'd never heard it. Yeah. But I actually like this one. This one worked for me.
Yeah, we just had Bob here, and he's playing the piano as well, which it doesn't always happen with Bob.
It does not. And I don't know if he's talking to the woman or if he's talking to Jesus, because those are the two things. And when I read the lyrics, I think he actually might be talking to Jesus, but the theme of the album He's probably talking to the woman, so I'm probably wrong, but it's
But
open to interpretation.
See, and that's one of the points I was going to make is one of the greatest things about Dylan, I think, is the way he can write, lines and entire songs that could have multiple different meanings, and that's what this song has going for it. One of the most just straightforward, I think, love songs. There's not that cynical bent to it that a lot of these have had, and for that reason, man, it was one of my favorites. I really, really enjoyed that one. And then we go to the penultimate track, Can't Wait.
Yeah, and Dylan biographer Greg Kot wrote, on Time Out of Mind, Dylan paints a self-portrait with words and sound that pivots around a single line from the album's penultimate song, Can't Wait. That line is, that's how it is when things disintegrate. Trey, he can't get over his love for her. Every verse ends with, I don't know how much longer I can wait.
Yeah, and you've mentioned that a few times, how there's a lot of, those repetitions.
Yeah, he uses it in most of the songs.
Because that's what all the blues songs, would do back in the day. So again, just taking the little white boy blues that Dylan was doing here. And this was a groovy track, I thought. I thought it was one of the less, with the pump organ and stuff, the arrangement didn't have the total Lanois feel, so to me.
Just a little bit, yeah.
And then I really enjoyed the line, while I'm strolling through the lonely graveyard of my mind, I left my life with you somewhere back there along the line. I thought this one was really good. And then now we transition to what had been his longest song ever.
At 16:31, not anymore.
Before Murder Most Foul came along this year. Highlands. And this has a bit of everything, man. This was pretty darn comical at points,
20 verses. You heard it right. 20. Some of the albums we review, I'm lucky if I get 20 verses in the entire album. We have 20 verses on one song, and it was very comical in places.
And so we start off with some exposition talking about what else, the Highlands, this and that. He eventually goes to a diner. He's there. He's with, he's talking to the waitress here, talking about the eggs, this or that. Eventually, he goes to draw her.
Yeah, okay. Draw me a picture. So he draws her a picture, and she says, that doesn't look anything like me.
Yeah, and he's like, well, yeah, it kind of does. And it's funny, too, because he actually tried to get out of drawing the waitress, but is provided the pencil and the napkin. After he draws it, she argues that he doesn't read the women authors, but in fact, he reads Erica Chong. And he later remarked, some things in life, it gets too late to learn. I must have made a few bad turns. And then the ending verses just kind of reflect that life is kind of passing him by now, and he's again have that reflective nature that we had a decent amount on this record.
Yeah, and he even name drops Uncle Neil for us.
That's right,
man. Gets name dropped in here.
Had to turn it up.
Good story on it. The arrangement, it just grated on me after a while, right? It's a 16.5-minute song, man, and that arrangement, it could have just been dialed back some, because it's all about the story. The story is enthralling. Funny story is he comes out of the studio, and one of the managers comes up and says, you got a shorter version of that, Bob? And Bob looked at him and said, that is the
short version, man.
So that was amusing, Trey. So now we're on to our favorite tracks. What do you got?
For me, it's got to be Standing in the Doorway.
I got that one.
Make You Feel My Love, and Not Dark Yet.
I am right there with you, Trey. Wow, we got the same 3 songs that are our favorites. Me, man. So now we get to our overall grade. All right, we've done a ton of Dylan albums. I don't know, maybe a dozen from all different time periods, as you mentioned. Bob talked about working with Daniel Lanois and said he really liked working with him, but he didn't like the way this album came out. And after this album, he started self-producing everything, which made me pose the question, it's your 30th album. You probably should have already been self-producing, Bob. Then you wouldn't have to deal with this. But I say all that to say this. This album is very well thought of, both by fans and critically. And obviously it won a Grammy for whatever that's worth. But for Album of the Year, it's still a great honor. For me, this album just did not work. And it's nothing about Bob.
It's just that arrangement.
It's that arrangement. Now, I don't know. This is the last page of my notes, and I don't know if you can read that from a distance, but let me read this for you. It says, burn the pump organ. And I got 3 exclamation points there. So if we could burn that pump organ and re-record this album, it would probably be sky high for him. But the way it stands now, this is the lowest grade I've ever given an album for Bob. And it's just because of the arrangement. It
Yeah.
just, there are some great
took it
songs
out.
on here. It just took it out for me. And just listening to it, you know, for, I just couldn't.
I
do it.
respect it, man. I
mean,
respect your opinion. And
It's a long album, Trey, and I got to listen to this thing. You know, it's 72 minutes long.
yeah, so for me, I liked it more than you did.
I didn't even give my grade.
Oh, that's right. We got the build up.
We had the build up, and I didn't. I give it a 6.75. That's where I'm at with it.
I mean, that's still
Oh, it's not
decent,
horrible,
you
but
know?
I mean, for me and Bob, because I love Bob, but that's just where I am.
Well, I did enjoy it more than you, though. I do see the validity of what you're saying with the pump organ and just the arrangement that Lanois had. I did enjoy Lanois' work more on Oh Mercy. That
I did
we
too. I didn't have
reviewed.
any issue with that. Love his work with you too. I mean,
yeah.
I was surprised that I felt this way.
But and so another reason too, I didn't maybe vibe as much with this record as just subject matter coming from a place of heartbreak, coming
Yeah.
from a place of older. Gentleman who's looking back on life, not as relatable as some of his other works,
Hey,
just
now.
for me personally as a 24-year-old. But,
Yeah.
but all that to say, trying to look at this objectively, I still thought there was some classic, top tier Dylan tunes in here, even if there were just some tracks I thought were middle of the road or filler. But all that to say, I'm going to 7.75 on this. I do think this is a good record, and I'm glad we got the chance to look at
I am too.
and review it. So shout out to Sean for
Thank
that
you, Sean.
one, man. Always enjoy diving into the great Bob Dylan. Let us know what you think of this record. Are you more on my side, or are you good with the arrangement, or are you more on Sean's side?
You're probably coming for me, YouTube world, and I understand it. I do. I really do.
But let us know what you think, man. Always fun to hear from the community. And until next time, y'all, thanks so much for watching. Happy listening, and we will see ya.